Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to this conversation on the MEC, multiple access edge computing, and that is part of a report by Sensafield in collaboration with RCR Wireless News. And today I have with me Caroline Chan, who is the General Manager in the 5G Infrastructure Division and the Network Platform Group at Intel. Caroline, thanks for being with us today. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics, so I am actually very excited to have this conversation. But I noticed that you used the right word. You said multiple access. We used to call it mobile edge compute when we started it, but now we've expanded the horizon.
Yeah, and it's actually still a little bit difficult to just get used to it, but it's really more than just an acronym change. And we're going to get to talk about that part. Why is it meaningful to call it multiple access and no longer mobile access? Now, to get our audience in line, can you give us a quick description about what Intel is doing in MEC?
Yeah. Yeah, so we are part of the group that provide the silicon platforms and software to a whole host of companies in the communication industry. Especially for myself, we're focusing on 5G, focusing on wireless. So we started this MEC, like 3-4 years ago. It was just a twinkle in our eyes. So we started with Huawei, Nokia, Vodafone, Docomo, and IBM. We kick off this initiative in SC in an attempt to put in cloudify the network, to bring the best known methods that in a cloud service provider, the innovation cycle, the ability to generate additional revenue, to really start capturing some of the OpEx savings. It was just an idea to say that now that we have this network function virtualization, what are the benefits? We're really looking ahead, what benefits we can bring from that. So we started this, and it's been evolving, and I'm very excited, from talking about why and can we, to now we're talking about trials and early deployment. So we've kind of come a long way, and we've been in this as a technology partner to our customers and end users from the very beginning.
Right, and as you were mentioned at the beginning, it's multiple access, no longer mobile. So it started off with the part of the virtualization, and now it's really becoming more than that. It's sort of widening its scope in many ways, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. When we started, because our backgrounds came from the wireless, and everybody that the names I mentioned all involved in that. But then when we did the SC MEC, as we start discussing it, and the operator comes in and go, why limit this to cellular? Why not Wi-Fi? Okay, why not Wi-Fi? Then people say, why limit to just wireless? What about wireline? And so for the second release that's coming up, and people redefine it as a multiple access, because once you realize the benefit of that, it really is applicable to all type of access network.
And in fact, there's an advantage that you have the same approach, that it's
yes,
available across different networks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, let's move to look at the future also. So today we have 4G networks, and we started deploying MEC in 4G. But what about 5G? Are there parts of MEC that needs 5G? Do we need to wait for 5G, or can we get started already?
Yep, this is actually an excellent question. So even the conversation we've had from the beginning, like I said, people will say why and can we? So we started with 4G, and now even 4.5G. Most of our trial today sits on 4G and 4.5G. But if you're really looking at 5G, what does the 5G really bring you? A lot of the applications we're talking about is extremely low latency, and that's where MEC really comes in. So, and then also, if you look at 5G, at least all the conferences I've gone to, the operators I've talked to, all emphasize NFV as the foundation of 5G. So becomes really a game that the investment drastically decreased because you are the foundation. You have the foundation of virtualized platform. You have the foundation of running this on a general purpose, and having the multiple access benefits, the MEC benefits, it really comes like this. So that's what we say for 4G. It's something that is nice to have. It opens up your revenue. It opens up your business opportunity. But for 5G, it almost becomes a de facto. So we're very excited about it. But the road to MEC has already started. It started 3-4 years ago. We really start seeing early deployment here this year in 2017.
Right, and it's going to be a process that is going to require time because there are so many things that we have to learn to do. So it requires a different mindset. Now, you mentioned about the benefits of MEC. Can you go over what are the values, the benefits, especially to the enterprise? What do you see there? What's in there for them?
So again, I feel I'm like telling history, but I'm just recalling when we started this, right? We really started with caching. So that's something pretty, makes sense to a lot of people, moving the content closer to the user. But as we dig in more and more, that is still very much valid. But one of the things that we're realizing is that once we go talk to the operator, a lot of times enterprise use cases becomes very prominent. Because think about this, what I internally and even externally, I call MEC the perfect marriage between IT and telecommunication. When you go to enterprise and when you talk about launching applications, many times you are talking to the IT side of business. And the ITs have a different methodology, different principles, different custom methods. It's much more comfortable to them. And when you really hide that communication part of it from IT, it really started presenting that here is an API as defined by SC, and you don't have to worry about all the plumbings underneath. And what you have is API and the rapid innovation cycle that you can start putting in applications. And by the way, applications that IT can control, the applications that IT wants to deploy, and runs on a virtual machine with the security. The learnings, we work through a lot of security issues, billings, LI, legal intercept, a lot of the lawful intercept, a lot of things we work through come to today, becomes a plug and play for the enterprise. Really opens up and transforms the business from a consumer-driven, subscription model-driven to a application services enterprise model.
Right, and that also changes the relationship between the operators and the enterprise and gives the operators a way to address the needs of the enterprise in new ways. Which has been traditionally an issue from the mobile operators' point of view.
Yeah, and then in fact, what we're seeing, some of our partners, the way they go to market is actually going through the channel model. So if they package the MEC right, that you could sell it through your channel, through MVNO. So, but when we started this, that was one of our vision, that was one of our wish list, and we start seeing that coming true as we work through all the learnings. It does change the model from a lot of the operators. It really puts you a much more approachable with the enterprise side, and to really start solving some of the B2B issues that they're seeing.
Right. Now, in the enterprise, Wi-Fi plays a crucial role today. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely crucial to the enterprise wireless systems. How is that going to fit in? Because you can argue that it's in competition, but it's also a way to put the services together across different networks. What's your view on that?
We absolutely see it as a complementary. We never view Wi-Fi as competitive. We think in areas that cellular and Wi-Fi can coexist. Interestingly, we have seen cases where people go into a MEC deployment goes to an enterprise. In the past, they choose either between Wi-Fi or cellular, but with MEC, it becomes a access agnostic, because we are advocating a multiple access, and you use either cellular, you use or Wi-Fi as you see fit, and even wireline. It becomes a access agnostic way of deploying applications, but it's right on the network's edge, as close to the user as possible. I do see today, based on what we have done, our partners have done, is predominantly LTE. But going forward, we absolutely see Wi-Fi being part of it. That's why SC is moving rapidly forward to include Wi-Fi, include wireline into this. I have to say, so far, starting last year, actually starting late 2015, we've seen some spotty deployment, early deployment, and trials have been predominantly LTE based.
Right. Now, I'm sure this is a question you get all the time. What is the business model? Because from both an enterprise and a career point of view, MEC requires an additional investment in infrastructure, all the local equipment. So how can we build a good TCO model, a good, profitable model out of that?
So that's an excellent question. That's something that we're going to embark on this year to, now that we have a deployment out there, so we wanted to get a TCO model. From the early indications that the payback time is rather promising in terms of the cost compared with or without MEC, what the cost to roll out a MEC, and then you start the ability to deploy multiple, not one or two, but talking about tens of different applications running on the same platform compared to in the past. You may have to roll out one platform for one type of application. The payoff is actually looking quite promising, but we are working on it this year. We would like to publish a MEC business case out for our end users. The other thing is, remember what I mentioned that when we started, we're doing a lot of the edge caching. That it seems to be pretty straightforward in terms of being able to save on backhaul. But we didn't start from there. We started looking at different ways like verticals. Verticals related to IoT, about retail, transportation, healthcare, industrial. So each of them do have their own different matrix they need to do. So we started attacking one at a time. Some of the well-known the trials, for example, the China Mobile Formula 1 with Nokia, and that one was done really is for sports, and it has widespread use cases, but that is rather straightforward because simply you are giving your subscribers a way to get to see a sports event much closer and personal. At the same time, you provide ability for the operator to share in some of the revenue of video rebroadcasting. So I would say that the TCO model looking very, very promising. A different use case does have a different matrix and return. We are seeing very promising results in some of the verticals, but we are working with our partners and customers to start publishing this kind of information.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting to see that. But one thing that might also change is, as I said, there's a lot of variety depending on the different environments. But also, could it be that there is a different source of funding? So, for instance, for the CapEx, because when the enterprise or the venue owner stands to benefit so much from the local functionality, are they going to be willing to also contribute from a CapEx point of view?
I think that's a very, very feasible. I mean, you raised a very good point. And now, especially if you're looking at all the new spectrums coming out here in the US, there's discussion around CBRS, licensed. And so you have more spectrum becomes available. It does pose a different, remember I was talking about, you can sell it through channel. What about MVNO coming in and funding part of this? Does it all have to be funded by the operators themselves? Or is the enterprise, would they purchase some of the equipment and including a spectrum sharing model? I think the MEC becomes an enabler. And then it makes the different business model, ownership model interesting. If otherwise people owning a spectrum, investing in CapEx, for what? They have to see some the fact that MEC, if proven to be fitting their business needs, it gives them an incentive to take that next step and becoming a participant in the CapEx.
Right, absolutely. Now, we've been talking so far about MEC predominantly, but there are other initiatives. There is FOG, CORD, quite a number. How do you see MEC within that context, or the context of edge computing? How does it split among all these different initiatives?
I think all of these, I love it. Every time when people say there's new initiative coming, all it does say is that there's a heightened interest in the ecosystem to make this happen. What is open for open compute module, and then in MEC, I think eventually this will all merge, and they probably serve different segments. But I think that's what SC. In fact, I remember the last MEC World Congress, we actually host a open FOG day where the two camps sitting together, and we learn from each other. At the end, does it all become one initiative? I don't know. We have seen multiple initiatives coexist, addressing different parts of the market, but I do see that probably a lot of merging will happen, especially as IoT becomes a 50% of the market that needs to be addressed from an enterprise perspective. So as MEC will probably go into more IoT, and then the learnings from each other, whether it will become one initiative, I don't know. But I think for now, all the innovations happening on all 2 camps, 3 camps, only helps the industry to move forward and move faster, actually.
Right. Do you see that there might be a risk of fragmentation of the development of proprietary solutions in this respect?
I hope not. I guess there's always a risk, but I think that the camps are absolutely in dialogue. I know, in that day, I learned so much from the open FOG, and there was an honest exchange of ideas. I don't see that. There's always a risk, but I don't see that being overwhelmed, a very high risk of the fragmentation. I see the camps learning from each other, maybe initially addressing different parts of the segment, but if the market gets bigger, I do see probably a convergence at some point.
Yeah, right. So if we look at from a technology point of view, there's a lot of talk about network slicing. And with network slicing, you start looking at traffic based on different applications, different services, which is actually what MEC does as well, because depending on the function, you do the processing in a different place. So it's very different than what you currently have in the networks today, where all the traffic goes through the same channel. Is there a relationship? Is it between network slicing and MEC or edge computing solutions?
The relationship, they actually complement, enable each other. In fact, if you come to the Intel Mobile Congress 2017 demo, we'll have network slicing, and then we'll have MEC running on it. I don't see them as at all competitive. The network slicing, it comes with 5G, comes one of the enablers for 5G, and comes with the fact that you have a soft and flexible platform. There will be different slices targeting URLC, massively connect IoT, and enhance mobile broadband. And MEC can sit on each one of these slices. We're going to demonstrate that. We'll showcase that the two actually probably enhance each other very well.
Right. You mentioned many trials. You've been quite busy on this. If you were to summarize, what were the major lessons you learned? Because there's a lot to learn here. What would they be?
Number one is when we started, there was a lot of questions about killer app. For a while, I couldn't get my head out of what is a killer app. And so at the end, what we learned is you got to solve some of the fundamental issues. Mm-hmm. Security, you must solve security. I remember the first one came out was LI, lawful intercept. Solve that, solve security, solve billing. How do you capture all the O&M? The killer app solve itself. Once you start doing the trials, once you start talking to different segments, different enterprise directly, you actually see the killer app apps, I should say. There's not one app fits all. Every verticals have their different needs. The most fundamental thing is to provide a platform that is secure, that is virtualized, and that has a fast deployment cycle. Very, very important. And because that's really one of the hallmarks of a virtualized platform, and it does not miss impeding the operation side. So in other words, all your buildings, O&Ms need to be packaged well. And then the other learning is that you do need to take care of the channel. You need to make your packaging such that you can easily sell through the channels. And so all of that learning really becomes you put a nice package together, and don't worry about the killer apps, because once you go out there engaging, you will get the applications that run effectively, cost effectively, beneficially on the platform. So that was my big lesson learned. Because for a while, we were brainstorming, we're doing surveying, and then we're realizing before you talk killer app, get a platform that people are willing and open to deploy. And you pass the security audit, then the application discussion can start.
Yeah. And as you said, then, it's very difficult to predict, and you might spend a lot of time trying to predict, and you find out you forgot something very important that nobody thought about. So now, Intel's name comes up in all sorts of trials for edge computing. How do you see your role in promoting the growth of the ecosystem? Because you do need a big, cohesive ecosystem here. What's your role in that?
So we are, Intel has always played the technology enabler partner role. So we actually, for this, we always have this thing called Network Builder. It's part of our NAV initiative. It's a way for us to get our ecosystem together. A lot of varieties of companies, including software companies, component providers, system integrators, middleware companies that rallies around x86 community. So we put that together. We do matchmaking. There's some even some market enabling fund. We also have a very large enterprise sales force. That's what Intel's good at. So we galvanize, and we become a partnership with our hardware providers, software. But ultimately, we're not the systems. We don't sell the system, but we sell the technology. So we will be we'll innovate, invest in growing the ecosystem, and be also, doing things like provide a business case, to provide a business model, and participate in the SC standard. We're also part of the open thought initiative as well, and make sure that the standard is open. It adheres to the NAV principle, and really becomes an enabler of the ecosystem.
Yeah. So just to close this off, what are you working on right now, and what should we expect from Intel over the next 5 years that you can share with us?
Oh, yeah, we made it very well known that we invest heavily into 5G. So we tied MEC as part of the 5G initiative. That's why it's part of my team's mandate. So we will be going forward. We'll work closely with partners and customers. We're actively developing a network slicing, a reference platform. We are developing a platform, what we internally call network in a platform, Flex RAN and Flex Core with network slicing. And we are actually releasing also MEC SDK, software development kit, to the community, to the ecosystem. Anybody wants it, come to intel.com. If you qualify, we'll send you one of these. And we're going to be supporting and participating in more trials, proof of concepts, and really see this ramping up in the industry.
Okay, Caroline, thank you very much for talking to us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be with you.
Okay, and this conversation was with Caroline Chan at Intel, and it's part of a report by Sensafili in collaboration with RCR Wireless on MEC and edge computing. Thanks all for listening in.